Om Asatoma Satkamayam Tamasoma Jyotirgamayam Mrityorma Amritam Gamayam Aviravirmayeti Rudrayatte Dakshinam Mukham Tenamam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. So Thanksgiving weekend is the time to think about gratitude. And so our topic today is practicing gratitude. Now, being grateful, saying thank you is a part of our culture. And so every time when we say thank you, if that thank you comes from the heart, then we are already been practicing a lot of gratitude. But sometimes when things are done too often, too regularly, they tend to become a kind of a ritual, a social ritual. And so it's possible that we might say thank you and not necessarily always have our heart filled with gratitude. Or we might just say good morning or good day and not necessarily always be like with the feeling, may you have a good morning. So sometimes these things get ritualized. And so it's good that whatever the history, most of you are familiar with the history of the Thanksgiving Day, or how it came about. If you have not read about it recently, then it's easy to just go to any source, and Wikipedia is probably the easiest to, if you want more details about how this day came about. Apart from the history, it's good that there is this one day. It gives us a chance to, besides the celebration and all of that, besides it being a beginning of the shopping season for Christmas, there are all these other meanings gotten attached to this observation. But nevertheless, this does give us a chance to think about what being thankful means, what being grateful means. Sometimes it's helpful to step back from our own life, because sometimes when we look at our life and say, what is my life really? Because the things that have happened in our life since the time we were born, those things are already over. That's happened already. All that remains with us about our past are the memories that we have. As for the future of our life, we don't know what is in future. So what we have about our future are our dreams and hopes about tomorrow, about next year, about the next 10 or 20 years. So our life, as we understand it, is hopes and dreams about the future, memories of the past, and then this present. But the present is not a very stable thing in a way, because every moment, this present moment, the very next moment, this present moment has become a past moment. And so it's difficult to hold on to the present, because the moment we try to hold on to it, the very next moment that has become past. And so it's kind of a changing thing. And so what oftentimes happens is sometimes we dwell too much in the memories of the past, or too much about dreams and hopes about the future, with the result that the present, which is difficult to grasp with anyway, we just miss the present. It's possible, therefore, that days and weeks and months may pass, and we may not even know that they have passed until someday we pause and say, oh, Sometimes it happens. We celebrate the new year, and then it just seems like, oh, there's a year ahead of me. And then very soon we find, well, it's already November now. And it didn't seem too long ago that we thought, oh, 2023, now it's 2024. Time for 2024 to arrive. If we look back at our life also, irrespective of whatever age group we belong to, we might see that it's really moved very fast. Not just the last year, maybe even last 5, 10, 20 years. The past moved very fast. And the illusion of time is such that when we think about the next 20 years, it makes us feel like it's a long way, it's a long time. But again, if my past 20 years have moved very quickly, there is no reason why the next 20 years should be any slower. So that's when we begin to ask ourselves, what is this life really? What do I have? And as I said, about the past, we have memories. But again, we don't remember everything of our past. Only certain memories stick around. There are certain memories we don't have because we were just too young, too small. How many of us, we don't remember anything that happened in our life when we were 1 week old or 1 month old. And some people can remember what happened maybe they were 1 year or 2 years old. But even then, it's a very vague sort of memory, unless we have heard it from some elders in the family, people who are older than us, who were around when we were little babies. And then they kept on telling us, oh, when you were a little baby, this is what you used to do. Well, that was a part of my life, but I don't remember anything of it unless I hear it. And then it's become kind of a second-hand memory, something that I did, which I don't remember, but I've heard from some of the older people around me. And it's almost like reclaiming your life through the memory of someone else. And then there are a lot of memories we have, not only about our life, but about the life of people around us. And if we have not shared those memories with anyone, and there may be some things only we know, and not many people around may know, and if we pass away without sharing it, then that thing is gone forever. And so that's the thing about memories. I remember many years ago, my mother told me about my cousin. One of my cousins, she is about 11 years older than me. And so my mother said, when you were a little baby, so this cousin, she would often come she was just a 10 or 11-year-old kid. So she would often tell my mother, oh, I will take care of the baby, you take rest. So she would kind of babysit me for a while. Now, my cousin herself had never told me that. And until I heard this from my mother, that, oh, when I was a little baby, she took care of me. And then after that, whenever I have seen her, whenever I met her, I remembered, oh, she took care of me. And then I feel grateful for something that was part of my life. I had no idea about it unless and until when I was told about it. So that kind of set me thinking about what memories do. And we have seen on earlier occasions that memories are a tricky thing in some ways. Because memories are two kinds of memories. It can be very pleasant, wonderful memories of the past, which can be very nourishing, because if the present is painful, then sometimes we kind of retreat into some of the joyful memories of the past or dreams about the future. But sometimes some memories of the past can also be very painful. And one of the challenges in life then is to try to wrestle with those memories and try to somehow integrate them into our life. But whatever we are today, any of us, we are a resultant of everything that has happened in our life. And so thinking about life in this way, I have found the only natural response to everything that has happened in the past, everything that may or may not happen in the future, is to just be grateful. One of the things we have to guard against is a sense of entitlement, in the sense that we all have our own idea about what a life should be, what my life, everyone can say what my life should be. And so when things go well in our life, we kind of assume, well, that's how things should be. When things don't go that well, then we say, oh, there's something wrong. And so we feel kind of an entitlement to a life that is peaceful and harmonious. And when it doesn't match with our present experience, we feel robbed, we feel cheated, we get angry, we try to find who is responsible for messing up my life. We either blame other people, or if not, we can sometimes get angry with God and said, why isn't God helping me? Why would God allow this to happen? And so on. If we look at our life, what I have, and many of us may have come to this conclusion, that everything that happened in our life, and sometimes it may be difficult to articulate it this way, but gratitude can be such a powerful force. Now, it's understandable that we can be grateful for things that are wonderful in our life, something that we have received, we have been nourished, we feel happy about. And of course, we are going to feel grateful about it. But what about things in our life, either in the present or in the past, where we feel that we have received the short end of the stick, so to speak. We have not gotten our due, that somehow we received some pain and sorrow and suffering. How can gratitude be a part of that? And it's difficult. If we step back, though, we will see that, as I mentioned earlier, whatever we are now is a result of everything that had happened, painful as well as pleasant in our life. Hard though it may be, that most of the maturity, strength that we have developed inside is partly due to all the wonderful things that happened in our life, but mostly due to some of these really tough, difficult situations and people and places we have been. Because it's only when there is resistance from outside in some way that the inner strength is called forth to meet the challenge. And odd as it may seem, that if that difficult situation externally had not appeared, it's likely that that inner strength, which I myself was unaware of, would not have manifested within me. And so if we find that we have toughened up a little bit, that we are able to face the challenges today in a better way than maybe we could have done, say, some years ago, that toughness, that inner strength has come to us because of some of the really difficult periods of our life. If this makes sense, then it's possible to be even grateful, although it's difficult to be grateful when you're passing through that difficult phase. But when we look back, it's possible then to be grateful even for these difficult things in life, because they have toughened us, they have made us strong, they have made us better, they have made us more mature. There's another reason that we can be grateful, and this is we find in the story of the Ramayana in Saint Tulsidasa's version of Ramayana. In the beginning, he says, I bow down to all the saintly people or good people all over the world. And then he says, I bow down to all the wicked people, all the evil, terrible people in the world. And then someone asked Tulsidas, well, showing your respect and gratitude, all the wonderful people is fine. Why should you be so grateful and so respectful of these terrible people? And then Tulsidas said, looking at good people, I learn. I learn that this is how I should live. So they teach me how to live. But looking at all these wicked people, they are also my teachers. Because looking at them, I learn how I should not live. So everyone around us, good and bad, can be our teachers, provided we are willing to be student. That's the most important thing. Everything around us, nature around us, is ready, is willing to teach us. So there is no shortage of teachers. There is a really great shortage of a student. If I keep a little bit of that student attitude in my heart, that I don't stop being a student after I graduate from schools, that I will be a student all through, a student of life, and that learning never ends. Maybe, and probably even the Buddha wouldn't say that, but maybe that we could say, after I have attained the supreme knowledge, then my studentship is over. But unless and until I have become completely enlightened, we are still students. And Sri Ramakrishna's saying often comes to mind, one word which we have in the room outside on the wall. As long as I live, so long do I learn. And so if we are willing to learn, we will find teachers all around us. And of course, a student will be grateful for the presence of the teachers in their lives. And that's one thing that we can try to remember as we celebrate this Thanksgiving weekend. Now, for those who have a spiritual background, that's people, all of you who visit places of worship, who come to the Vedanta Center, we know that oftentimes being grateful often takes the form of a prayer. We express gratitude to the Supreme Being through our prayers, through worship. A devotee of God becomes aware that everything that we have received in life, all the grace, all the blessings that have come to us, is a result of the grace of the divine. And so prayer, and we have seen often the relationship between the prayer, worship, and meditation. Prayer can be seen as a seeking, as wanting. When we need something, when we want something, we obviously would go to a source or go to a person who will give us, who's capable of giving us what we need. When we are very little, when we are children, when we are babies, oftentimes the first people who will give us whatever we need or to whom we turn are our own parents or the elders in our family. But as we grow older, we can't always be running to our parents. And after some time, the parents will say, now you manage your own business yourself. But there is this divine parent. So when we look upon the divine as our Father, God the Mother, there are any number of different ways we can establish our relationship with God. So if a devotee sees the divine as one source who is capable of giving me what I want, that he or she is my very own, and therefore prayer is when a devotee seeks something, the first person the devotee thinks of is asking from God. And so prayer can be seen as a movement from the divine to the devotee. To seek, because when we pray for something and our prayers are answered, we feel happy. But it also then strengthens our faith that I asked for this and God gave me this. And just a reminder that asking for something and getting it is something we refer to as my prayers were answered. But it's good to remind ourselves, asking for something and not getting it can also be seen that my prayer was answered with a no, because a no is an answer. And so that way, every prayer, a devotee sees that every prayer is answered. That no matter what I pray for, oftentimes I do not know what is good for me. Just as a parent knows exactly what is good for the baby, God will give me only what is good for me. So if I pray for something and I don't get it, that is also an act of love. Because God loves me, God didn't give me what I asked for. We should be very grateful for things that God didn't give me, because oftentimes we are so stupid in the things we ask from God. If God didn't care for us, God would give us everything we asked for, and our life would be even messier than it is now. So if if we are doing well, it's because many of our prayers were not answered. But whichever way we see the answering of the prayer from the divine, we feel that sense of gratitude. And that sense of gratitude then takes a form of giving, worship. If prayer is something, a kind of receiving from the divine, worship is a form of giving. And in a ritualistic worship, many of you who attend pujas here have seen, in the ritualistic worship we give flowers, fruits, incense, light, all these different things that are offered in the worship. That's an act of an offering. So both these movements, prayer, a movement from the divine to the devotee, worship, a movement from the devotee to the divine, both these movements bring them closer to one another. And the closer they come, only then meditation becomes possible. And so although meditation is something that is very popular, everyone tries to have some kind of meditation practice, it is also helpful to keep in mind that meditation in the truest sense of the term is a fairly advanced practice. In fact, meditation is more an experience. It's more a state of being than practice. What we can practice is creating an environment outside us and inside us, an ideal environment which will make meditation possible. And meditation is something that happens. As an example, I often give that sleep, we can't practice sleep. We can't will ourselves into sleep. But what we can do, we can find a comfortable bed that suits you, a right size of cushion or a pillow. All these things we can try. That's something we can practice. Create the right environment in which sleep may occur. And when you have created that environment, then you just wait. And then, of course, as it happens every night, after turning and twisting for a while, sleep comes. But we don't control which moment sleep is going to come. Meditation is like that. We don't control when meditation happens. What we can control is, can I make the environment, can I create a right environment for me to enter that state of meditation? And among the things that anyone can do is to have some place in our lives for prayer and worship. Because these two things, which both can be done, we can do a prayer, we can do worship, Now, how to do the prayer, in what prayers to use, how to do the worship, there is no one general rule for it. Everyone can devise their own ways. There are certain ways it's been done traditionally, but it's not so much how it's done, but the heart that we bring, the presence that we bring to these practices, that makes the difference. But preparing ourselves for meditation starting with prayer, having some role for worship, does make a meditative practice more strong, more stable, something that can nourish us. Now, I said worship is something that is an act of giving to God. But then there's always this challenge that, first of all, we read in our book, God alone exists. If there is anything else, it's God's own creation. Everything already belongs to God. Even I don't belong to myself. And so, what can I give to God which is not already God's? It's there is one day in a year in India, they celebrate what is called the Ganga Puja. So the river Ganges is very sacred to many Hindus, and so while they use Ganges water for many worship, but they also worship the Ganges one day in a year. And then the question is, for all other worship, we use the water of the Ganges. What water are we going to use for worship of the Ganges? And so, if you haven't seen it, you can probably look it up on any of the YouTube channel. Just put Ganga Puja or worship of the Ganges. You will see it. It's very interesting. We have it at Belur Mutt every year. So the worshipper sits on the steps right next to the river, and they have, just like we have the puja things all arranged on the steps which lead to the Ganges. So they just take the water from the Ganges and then offer it to the Ganges again. So we are giving to the Ganges what is already the Ganges water. And that's essentially how all worship is seen. Even when we offer fruits and whatever things, we might think this is my offering, I'm doing, but everything really is already the divine. So it's not what is given, although a devotee will try, a bhakta will try to give the best to the divine, but it's not what is given that's of prime importance, but with what kind of a feeling inside the heart. That's the most important thing. Again, I said earlier about saying thank you. Thank you is something that we all do. But when we say thank you with a heart filled with gratitude, with real love in the heart, then those same two words, thank you, will sound a little bit different. They will have a little bit different effect on the person who hears it than a very kind of a mechanical, casual thank you, thanks, good morning. We just say it. But we can feel the difference when whoever says these things, how much of it is just a customary practice and how much of it comes from the heart. And so that is very important. Now, if worship in a temple or in or in a church or in a mosque or a synagogue may take one form inside, but if God is present in everyone, if God is omnipresent, God is present in the heart of everyone, God is present in everything, then a worship should have a larger meaning, a larger connotation as well. And the practice of karma yoga is really this extension of worship, that not limiting worship to worship places, not limiting worship to a certain places or in certain temples, but that even our everyday activity can be converted into a worship. And The process is not complicated at all. That, for instance, for a physician or a doctor, a patient who comes to a doctor, the doctor has a choice to say, either look at this patient and say, here is this patient, I have this knowledge and skill to treat this patient, and this is what I'm doing. That's clearly what is one way to do it. But someone with a spiritual background would say, God is present in everyone. God has now today come to me in the form of this patient. Whatever I give in the form of my knowledge and skill and help is actually a worship of this divine, of a worship of God who has come to me in the form of patient. Now, what the doctor does would be the same thing, as no matter what attitude the doctor has towards the patient, what is actually done is not different. It may not be different at all. But if the doctor is able to look at the patient and say, here is this divine who has come in this form, and I'm worshipping the divine by using my knowledge and skill, etc., to help this person, then that kind of a very secular activity can become a worship itself. Same thing with regard to, and this was just one example, same thing with regard to teachers and students, or parents and their children, or children and their parents. Everyone can, if they just look at what they do in a different set of eyes, everything can become a worship. Now, those of us who enjoy gardening, now winter is upon us, there's not too much of gardening we can do now, going out into your backyard or front yard. But it's possible to look upon the people in our lives, people around us, members of our family, our friends, our neighbors, that they are plants too. And just as you water the plants well and the plant looks healthy, and the flowers that come, they bring so much joy, so much cheer. But if we look upon people around us as plants as well, then the way to water these plants around us is through kindness, through love, through help, through affection, through friendship. This is what we can give to the plants, the people around us, then these plants will grow. They will bring as much joy. People around us can bring so much joy, just as the plants in our garden can do. So these are all kind of related ideas about what it is possible to think about on a Thanksgiving weekend. Because we need to recognize that none of us is self-made. Sometimes we might like to think of ourselves as, oh, I have done everything on my own. I didn't receive any help. I did everything on my own. And the reality is that's just not true. They say that a human baby is the most helpless creature. Even some of the young ones of birds and animals, they become self-reliant much before we human beings do. When immediately after birth, it's a completely helpless baby. So unless and until people around, parents or whoever was around, or the doctors or wherever it was necessary or possible, unless they took care when we were little babies, we wouldn't have been where we are now. And we were completely dependent on outsiders. Again, even it's not just when we were little babies. As we grow up, none of us can do everything on our own. We have received so much from our family, from our friends, in many different ways. And it's good to acknowledge that. And that's what being grateful means. Even after we grow up, even today, that as human beings, we are being nourished by the love and understanding and friendship of people around us. And the best way to show that we are truly grateful for the world around us for making us what we are is to then, as they say, if you cannot pay it back, you pay it forward. Because clearly it's not always possible to, in fact, there are some things we cannot be paid back at all. There is, some of you may be familiar with, there is a temple in Benares, in the Ganges, right in the main area, just on the bank of the Ganges. And it's even there now. If you look it up again online, even if you have not gone there personally. So this was built by one king. Beautiful temple, fully stone temple, and he did it as his form of gratitude towards his mother. That he was very grateful for what his mother had done, like all of us, many of us are. So he said, he built that temple in memory of his mother, and then said, building this temple, I have repaid everything that my mother did for me. And the very next day, the temple, the foundation, one side of the foundation collapsed, and then the temple kind of, it's like a 45 degrees angle, half immersed in the river. And still there. It's still 45 degrees. Nothing has changed. And when you see there, and then the story associated with it is, there are certain things that can never be paid back. And so being grateful is not like saying, okay, I say thank you to you, bye-bye. It's not a kind of shopkeeping that you do this for me, and I say thank you, I'm grateful, I return to you in this way, and now we are even. It's not as simple. A life should not be, it's sad if our entire life becomes transactional. It's only about calculating what others have done for me and what in some way I'm doing for them, and then we are even. No, that's not how life is. Not everything can be given back. But we can be grateful that we have received love, understanding from others. What I can do is I can, in return, not repaying, but in return, that love and understanding in my own heart, I can then share with others, even if I'm not always able to share it with the very people who gave it to me. But that's how life is surviving. That's how the world is going. If everyone thought about themselves, this world would have come to an end. But there are always people who think of the larger circle around them. And so a time of thanksgiving also can remind us of that. And there is one quotation which is a favorite of mine. I'll share that with you before I end. And that is, this was said by, there's one Caliph Ali. It's probably name of some Sufi saint. I don't know much about this person. But Sister Nivedita, Vivekananda's Irish disciple, she quotes him in one of her letters. And this is what he said: "Thy place in life is seeking after thee. So cease thou from seeking after it." Life can be so peaceful right now if we recognize that all I need to do is do what is right, do what is good. Whatever I'm going to receive in life, whatever position I'm going to hold in life, that is coming. That no one can take it away from me. That is what is my due, will come to me. I don't have to run after it. In fact, the more I run after something thinking that I'm entitled to that, the more it will elude us. We don't have to, all that a devotee, all that a spiritual seeker does is, let me hold on to what is true, what is right, what is good. That can take, in a theistic way, dependence on the divine. In a more subjective way, it can be, think of this divine spirit in our own hearts. Whichever way we think of that, all that I need to do is to hold on, to live with certain values, certain principles, do what is right, do what is good, and whatever I'm going to get, whatever position I, I'm meant to receive in this life, that will come on its own. But we see that this simple truth is not so well recognized. People spend their entire lives trying to manipulate other people, trying to this politicking. It's a total waste because sometimes we are delaying what would have happened to us otherwise. And so, even before we become enlightened, even before we get that supreme bliss of self realization, even now, even in our present state, it's possible to experience a measure of harmony and peace by just holding on to what is right, what is good. Because every time we compromise with some of these basic principles and values, some kind of pain and suffering will come. And then we may attribute it to people and things around us. But the reason is to kind of look in our heart. So if you hold on, that's why there is this Mahabharata has this very great saying which says, Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. If I hold on to dharma, if I protect dharma, dharma will protect me. That's why when India became politically free and they wanted to have a national motto, and they selected this statement from the Upanishads, Satyameva Jayate. It comes in the Mundaka Upanishad, which simply means truth alone triumphs. Now, superficially, this wouldn't make sense every time, especially when we see in the life around us people who are not truthful, not honest, apparently succeeding. When we see around us that those who hold on to certain values and principles sometimes experiencing some setbacks in life. Well, people who are corrupt, people who do seem to be going ahead. Then one may question that shouldn't I be practical and do what everyone is doing rather than being so too honest, too good? And that's where this then whole idea about compromise comes in. But what the Upanishad says is one who does not compromise with truth. Yes, there are matters of opinion. I'm not saying one has to be obstinate about everything. There are certain, that's why they say, in matters of opinion, swim with the current. In matters of principles, stand firm like a rock. So you don't have to be getting into argument about everything. Yes, there are certain things, swim with the current. But there are certain principles, basic principles. If we compromise that, then we have nothing stable to hold on to. And that's why, if we can hold on to that, then we will see that what is going to come will come to me on its own, rather than me moving heaven and earth to get it. And finally, this in a piece that a research they did about 8 years ago, they found that those who practice gratitude consciously is the key word here, those who practice gratitude consciously experience greater happiness in life than those who do not. So even from a purely utilitarian standpoint, if we want to be happy, be grateful. That's the message that comes to us. Let's be grateful for the big things in our life, but also be grateful for the little things. If we make this a habit, somehow, if we make it a daily habit, for instance, just like a cup of coffee maybe you have daily, or a cup of tea, if it's possible, because consciously, can I be consciously grateful? So try to find an opportunity, at least once every day, to either tell yourself or, if possible, tell someone around you how grateful you are for them or for whatever other things. Or if you don't find anyone nearby, immediately to say something about gratitude to them, just look out of your window, look at the sun and say, I'm grateful to you for being there. And while the winter ahead, we don't know what kind of winter we are going to have. So having a nice sun and a little bit of warmth, it's good. It's something that to be grateful for. But try doing that. Find some, and it shouldn't be that difficult to find at least one thing to be grateful for every day. Because if we practice gratitude consciously, we can be happy. And this is not simply some great saying. This actual research has showed. So, lot of things to think about. And I'm sure many of you have thought about many other things which I may not even have mentioned today. But every celebration we have, and Thanksgiving is one of them, alongside the celebration can give us a lot of opportunity also for reflection. And some of these ideas might help us as we navigate the challenges in our life going forward. Om Jananim Saratam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhu.